And I'd like to invite my fellow Mayor, Sam Broughton, Mayor of the Selwyn District Council, to come forward. And just prior to your starting, I think we should just take a moment to acknowledge the scale of the pumpkin that has been grown for the competition between city and country. And I think that I would like to take credit for it. I planted it. And that is the credit that I can take, and it is the only credit that I can take. I have been to observe it. The first one that was grown actually burst. So it sort of blew itself up. And but fortunately, they were able to manage to develop this one. And I'm going to give full credit, not to the person who planted it, which was me, but to the people that grew it on my behalf and nurtured it in a fully organic environment at the Otakaro Community Orchard. So I would like, I think we should acknowledge my pumpkin in the most appropriate way.
Can we name it?
Come on.
Can we name it Albert?
Could you give it a clap? Thank you. And I think there'll be lots of photographs, or actually let me take a photograph of you, Sam. You know, because how big's your one, Sam?
No, it's not quite. It's not quite. It's not all about size.
That's what they always say. Anyway, right. Thank you very much. So, with that in mind, Sam is going to take the pumpkin with him at the conclusion of his submission in order to take it for judging at the Selwyn District Council tomorrow. Yes, and don't eat it on the way. There's no danger of losing it.
No, there's not.
Okay, over to you, Sam. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Leanne and councillors, for having me along here. Ko tawera te monga, ko wainiwiniwe te awa, ko Chrissy te waka, no Dawhiora hau, ko Sam Broughton toko ingoa, no reira, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou katoa. Just to acknowledge the process that you're going through here today, and will be for some time. Thank you for your leadership of the city, and of spending time listening to ideas and reflections on your long-term plan that you've put out so far. The pumpkin is a little bit of a slideshow really here today, but it's great to have it, and it really does speak of the partnership that Christchurch and Selwyn has on a number of different levels, and we have given 3 pumpkins to each school in Selwyn and asked them to grow them as a way of trying to understand water and nutrient use, and the water and nutrients that we might put into a pumpkin grown in a garden, and then think about if you expand that over 20 hectares of pumpkins, what that might be doing to our aquifers and to our catchment. Those are the sort of things that we're trying to get young people to think about. So thanks, Leanne, for growing one, and judging's on Thursday. And through your long-term plan, thank you for the document. It was great to be able to read through, and I suppose I want to congratulate you on providing, I think, clear ways for people to engage by saying, actually spend less here, you've got the spending about right here, or spend more. You've clearly identified what that might look like. And for me, I'm not really here to talk about the dollars that you're going to spend on things, but a little bit about the projects. So thank you very much for the way that we work together on the West Melton Christchurch Zone Committee, and the work that we do across Canterbury, I suppose, on the with the Mural Forum and through the Canterbury Water Management Strategy. I think Canterbury has really been an example for New Zealand on how collaborative working actually works and can provide good outcomes, and Christchurch has been a key player of that. The other thing that has been happening is the way that through the Greater Christchurch Partnership we've looked at urban planning, and that's fed into roading decisions and also roading developments, and I guess the push is actually to say it's got to be far more than roading. Roading's been one part of it, and unfortunately I think it's been far too much the key part of it, and there needs to be a greater look at public transport, at the way that we're moving freight around Canterbury, which needs to get off the roads as much as possible, using the sea and using the port where we can. And so through the Greater Christchurch Partnership, and just acknowledge the work that your councillors have done on that with us, and with ECAN and with WIMAC, I think we're setting the city up and Greater Christchurch up in a way that actually plans for our future well, rather than just being reactive to the pressures that we've got on us right now. I'll just touch on a couple of things that were in your long-term plan proposal, and the big one, I suppose, is the spending on an indoor arena. I think that stadium is a Canterbury regional facility that should be located in the city, but there should be an expectation and a conversation around how we fund that across the region. I don't have a magic bullet answer to what that should look like. I do know that the museum and the funding for the museum is shared by Waimak, Huranui, Selwyn and Christchurch, and perhaps that may be an example of or a starting point to look at, could that work on a wider scale. At the moment, it needs Christchurch's leadership for that project to start, and those conversations won't happen until you have decided dates, times, because the population centres in Christchurch, the bulk of the money will still come from Christchurch, even with a regional contribution. So you're asking for that conversation to happen now. Let's kick on with it. I think we need the stadium built in our city, and would like to see that happen. And to say it's a stadium for more than just sports, it'll be a space for activity, for bringing international acts and artists to the space, and will create economic benefits for Christchurch and for the Canterbury region as people come and then travel around this awesome place we live in. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Well, first of all, one, welcome, and thank you very much for taking the time and the trouble to come and submit on our long-term plan. I actually regard this as indicative of the nature of our relationship, and it hasn't happened before. We've certainly had ECAN here. We were a bit surprised to see them here the first time, but it was. But on this occasion, it is indicative of the relationship, and it's a very positive relationship. And to come along and to identify that a project on our budget, which has been sitting out on our budget, which we're now kind of signalling that there's potential to bring forward, and a number of submitters have asked us to bring it forward, and that enables us to potentially bring forward a conversation with the region as well. So thank you very much for bringing that to the table. Much appreciated. So I'll go for Tim and then Phil, and we'll see how time goes, but then Yanni.
Thank you, Sam. Just two quick things. One is with regards to roading and the pressures of your community coming in and getting held up with regards to time of travel. All I'd ask is that your planners with our planners just make sure you look at the sensitivities of our communities that are affected by that, because there are a number of issues that we've got, and we've got to protect those communities with the inflow. Just if we can keep that in the fore. The second one, thank you for your comments with regards to the stadium. When we look at, say, the Ed Sheeran, which I hate to mention, the distance that were travelled and the places people stayed to be able to go to Dunedin, but if we also look at the Queenstown Marathon, that's their single largest event, and there's 7,000 people brought into that area, and it's the area, not Queenstown. So I'd really like the conversation with you guys to look at having packages rather than just people come, stay and go, and so we're enhancing all of our communities in Canterbury. So I think that would be a really good conversation with Christchurch NZ.
Totally, and I think the people that stay in Christchurch experience Selwyn, and people that stay in Selwyn experience Christchurch, because the people that live either place, they come. If you have got visitors in Christchurch, I knew when I used to live here, you travel to the mountains, you go to Castle Hill. If you're in Selwyn, you come to the city, you punt on the Avon, you drive to Akaroa. So it's definitely a shared thing.
Come to Canterbury, not Christchurch.
That's right.
Cool.
Phil.
Thank you, Sam. I think you referred to, for example, around transport, how we shift freight, that kind of thing, and in your submission too, you make suggestions around Broughton Street, where there are some congestion problems. But I'm just a wee bit surprised around the suggestion of grade separations, like especially, and what I'm wondering, Sam, is where that might fit in terms of the government policy statement, strategic directions. If we look at things like, for example, livable cities and urban form, public space, and that whole environmental part, reduction of emissions, if you might perhaps make a comment on how that might work in future. And I know that isn't the only suggestion you make.
Yeah. I think that the current GPS focus is actually really on safety and reducing the road toll, road deaths to zero. I think that with Broughton Street, like there is with wherever you come from a high-speed zone into a slower zone, and it happens on both ends, there just needs to be an understanding that when we're working together on a road that's linking our two districts, there needs to be work done on both sides. So it's not just the piece of infrastructure itself. And so if we're deciding to put a road anywhere in a livable space, our urban planning and our roading networks need to match up and align. And I think that's the same with our public transport. We can't build a space and then all of a sudden decide that public transport might suddenly pop up in 3 years' time once people have already decided to buy cars. So there needs to be strong planning on both sides, I think.
Yeah. So Sam, besides us, our council, talking with the NZTA, it would be good to talk with you as a neighbour, someone as a neighbour too.
Yep.
Yeah. Good, thanks Sam.
Cool.
Excellent. Yanni?
Just two quick things. One is I just wanted to know if you guys have considered an off-road cycleway linking along the southern motorway to Rolleston, and any progress on that. And then the second question was, you've talked about the importance of the region and contributing to the Metro Stadium, which is great. Are you also up for a conversation about funding Christchurch NZ, which is seeking additional money from us to put into the events that would encourage people to come and visit your region as well?
So I don't think that we should be funding the Metro facility. Just to use that word, I think that that's a facility that actually serves the population that's in Christchurch in the same way that we provide parks and indoor centres. So that, to me, that's a different conversation than the stadium itself, if that's clear.
It is a wider conversation. I mean, the Christchurch NZ is an amalgamation of CDC and CCT, Christchurch Canterbury Tourism. So it's always been a regional kind of organisation, but it hasn't had direct contracts with every component within the region. I think your answer is absolutely spot on, but Christchurch NZ is named Christchurch NZ as much for its city status as it is for its gateway status. So, you know, but it's a wider conversation that Christchurch NZ would have to have, because some of the councils in our region have their own economic development agencies, they have their own RTOs, and we all work very closely together. So, right answer, wrong question. Thank you.
Oh, no, I just wanted to clarify. I was talking about the stadium, not the Metro Sports facility.
Yeah.
So the Metro Sports facility, I think, is Christchurch funded.
Absolutely.
The stadium, I think, is a regional asset. That's where the discussion should be.
Yes, I know.
But then around Christchurch NZ, again, let's talk about these things. I suppose that's why I'm here today, to say we work together on so much stuff. Let's make sure we have open conversations and lead together.
Yeah.
There is cycleway is planned. Yeah, that's in our long-term plan, and as part of NZTA's work along that motorway as well. Yep.
Excellent. Well, look, thank you very much for coming in, and you're always welcome here, and I really appreciate the time and effort that you've gone to make the appearance this morning, and I'd invite you to take my pumpkin away with you.
It might take me a minute. Thank you very much.
It's a pretty heavy pumpkin. Just think how much soup that's going to be.
Alfred.
Eh? There'll be no flavour. Right. Right. Thank you.